Have you ever noticed how some feelings arrive quietly, almost like footsteps you hear before you see anyone? Have you ever felt a woman's energy change around you without her saying a single word? Why does she sometimes grow quieter when you enter the room, yet somehow more present? Why does her attention feel different, more focused, more aware, almost like she is watching something unfold inside herself? Most men think attraction is obvious, loud, direct, easy to recognize. But real emotional attachment rarely begins that way. It begins in silence. Because a woman does not fall in love the way stories describe. She doesn't crash into it. She drifts into it, slowly, carefully, piece by piece. And long before she admits it, her behavior begins to reveal it. Not intentionally, not strategically, instinctively. Stoic philosophy teaches something very important about human nature. People rarely reveal their deepest emotions through declarations. They reveal them through patterns, through consistency, through repeated small actions that the conscious mind cannot fully control. And when a woman begins falling for a man, her patterns shift. Not dramatically, subtly. The first sign most men overlook is emotional transparency disguised as casual conversation. When a woman starts trusting you emotionally, she begins sharing fragments of herself she keeps hidden from most people. Not all at once, never all at once. It begins with small confessions. A story about a time she felt misunderstood, a memory she usually avoids discussing, a moment when she doubted herself. She may laugh while telling it. She may make it sound unimportant. But psychologically, this is one of the strongest indicators of emotional interest, because vulnerability is expensive, and human beings are careful where they spend emotional currency. Stoic thinkers believed that what people protect reveals what they value most, and a woman protects her emotional world fiercely. So when she allows you inside it, even slightly, it means you have already become different from others in her mind. Here is where it becomes deeper. She may not even realize she is doing it. Her subconscious identifies you as someone safe, someone stable, someone whose presence does not create tension, but reduces it. And emotional safety is the soil where attraction begins to grow roots. Another sign appears quietly. She begins paying attention to details about you. Details most people forget within minutes. Your favorite drink, the story you told once about your childhood, the way your mood changes when you talk about certain topics. At first, this seems like simple politeness. It is not. Psychology shows that attention is one of the strongest forms of emotional investment. People remember what emotionally stimulates them. If she recalls details you barely remember sharing, it means your presence has already created internal importance. And importance is the beginning of emotional attachment. But here is something many men misunderstand. When a woman begins developing feelings, she rarely becomes immediately obvious. Often she becomes slightly contradictory, warmer in private moments, more reserved in public ones, more expressive during deep conversations, more controlled during casual ones. This confuses many men. But confusion is often not the absence of feeling. It's the presence of feeling combined with fear. Stoic philosophy reminds us that human beings naturally protect what they are afraid of losing. And when a woman begins caring about how a man sees her, she becomes more self-aware around him. You might notice she adjusts how she speaks, how she sits, how she reacts. Not artificially, reflexively. Her nervous system is responding to emotional significance before her conscious mind accepts it. And this leads to the second hidden sign. She begins to observe you carefully, not just listening to your words, studying your reactions, your values, your emotional stability. When a woman feels nothing, she enjoys attention. When a woman begins feeling something deeper, she evaluates character. She watches how you treat strangers, how you handle stress, how you speak about your past. Because attraction invites curiosity, but emotional attachment demands security.
You may catch her looking at you when she believes you are distracted, not staring, watching. There's a difference. Staring is visual. Watching is psychological. Watching means she is trying to understand why your presence affects her the way it does. And often, when you suddenly meet her eyes, she will look away slightly faster than usual. Not out of discomfort, out of exposure. Because prolonged eye contact creates emotional vulnerability, and vulnerability is powerful when feelings are developing. Another quiet transformation begins during this stage. She begins including you in her mental routine. Not physically, mentally. You appear in her thoughts during random moments, when she hears something interesting, when she experiences something funny, when something reminds her of your personality. You may notice she sends you small messages, not important ones, not urgent ones, just fragments of her day. This is psychologically significant, because sharing small daily experiences is how emotional bonds are formed. People don't share ordinary moments with people who feel ordinary to them. They share them with people who feel emotionally close. Now here is where Stoic understanding becomes essential. Stoicism teaches emotional observation without impulsive reaction. If you are patient enough to notice patterns, you will begin seeing her attachment forming long before she verbalizes it. You will notice she finds reasons to continue conversations even after the topic naturally ends. She may ask follow-up questions that extend interaction. She may return to subjects you discussed days ago. This is not accidental. It's emotional continuity. And emotional continuity reveals desire for connection. There's also a subtle behavioral shift many men never notice. She becomes slightly more playful around you. Not dramatically flirtatious, just lighter, more relaxed. Playfulness is a psychological bridge between comfort and attraction. It signals emotional safety combined with curiosity. And curiosity is often the first emotional doorway toward love. But something else begins happening internally for her. And this is where complexity enters. As her emotional interest grows, so does her internal caution. You might notice moments where she suddenly becomes quieter, more thoughtful, less expressive than she was minutes before. Many men interpret this as loss of interest. Often it is the opposite. When feelings deepen, self-protection increases, because emotional investment introduces risk. Stoic philosophy explains that fear and desire often grow together. The more valuable something feels, the more carefully people approach it. So she may create small emotional distance occasionally, not because she is stepping away from you, but because she is stepping back to understand her own feelings. And this push and this hesitation creates a silent rhythm between two people. If you feel that rhythm, it usually means something meaningful is forming. Another secret sign appears in how she reacts to your emotional state. If she begins noticing your mood changes quickly, asking if you're okay, responding differently when you sound tired or distracted, that signals emotional attunement. And emotional attunement is one of the strongest indicators of early romantic attachment, because indifference ignores emotional shifts. Attachment responds to them immediately. She may not say she cares, but she starts behaving like someone who does. And here is something rarely discussed. When a woman begins falling for a man, she starts imagining him in hypothetical situations. You may hear her say things like, "You would probably enjoy this place. You seem like someone who would understand this. I wonder how you would react if..." These are not random thoughts. They are mental simulations. And psychologically, mental simulation is how emotional bonds prepare for real connection. It means you have moved from being part of her environment to part of her imagination. And when someone enters imagination, they rarely leave easily. But the deepest sign in this early stage is emotional presence. When she talks to you, she listens differently, not waiting to respond, not distracted by surroundings, fully present. Because presence is the natural response when someone begins to matter. And most people don't even realize how rare true presence has become. Now here is the question few men ask themselves. Are you observing her words or her patterns? Because words can be controlled, patterns rarely can be. And when a woman begins falling, her patterns always change before her language does. But this is only the surface layer. Because when her emotions continue growing, her behavior begins revealing something even more powerful. Something connected not only to attraction, but to emotional choice. And emotional choice is where feelings stop being curiosity and start becoming attachment.
There is a moment, subtle but undeniable, when curiosity turns into preference. This is where most men misread the situation, because attraction can be playful, light, temporary, but preference is different. Preference means she begins choosing you, not loudly, not dramatically, quietly. She chooses to tell you things first, before others, sometimes before she even understands why. Good news, a small victory, a frustrating moment from her day. Your name becomes the first one that comes to mind. And that shift is not casual. Psychologically, we share first with the person who feels emotionally significant, not the most available, not the most convenient, the most significant. This is the third hidden sign. You become her emotional reflex. When something happens, she thinks of you, and she may try to hide it. She may say, "I just thought you'd find this funny," or "You're the first person I wanted to tell." It sounds simple. It is not, because emotional priority is never random. Stoicism teaches that what we return to repeatedly reveals what we value. And if she repeatedly returns to you, in conversation, in thought, in small daily sharing, you are no longer an option. You are becoming a habit, and habits are powerful. Now notice what happens next. Her questions change. They become deeper, less about what you do, more about who you are. What made you think that way? Do you believe people really change? What do you want long term? These are not interview questions. They are alignment checks. When a woman begins emotionally choosing a man, she evaluates compatibility without announcing it. She is asking herself silently, can I trust his mind? Can I respect his character? Can I feel safe in his emotional world? And here is where many men lose awareness. If she debates you playfully, challenges your opinions, pushes back slightly, that is not resistance. That is engagement. Indifference does not argue. Indifference does not explore. Investment does. Because she is testing strength, not dominance, stability. Stoic philosophy emphasizes emotional steadiness. If you remain calm, measured, grounded, you become psychologically attractive in a deeper way. Because emotional steadiness signals safety, and safety is the foundation of female attachment. Now something else begins unfolding. She starts adjusting her energy to match yours. If you are calm, she softens. If you are serious, she listens more carefully. If you withdraw slightly, she feels it immediately. This is called emotional mirroring. It happens subconsciously. Her nervous system begins syncing with yours, and synchronization is one of the earliest biological markers of bonding. You might notice she adopts small phrases you use, laughs at your humor in a way that feels natural, matches your pace when walking. These are not rehearsed behaviors. They are unconscious alignment. And alignment signals connection. But here is where it becomes more revealing. She becomes careful. Not distant, careful. She rereads messages before sending them, thinks longer before responding to something vulnerable, pauses when choosing her words. Many men misinterpret this as disinterest. In reality, carefulness is emotional caution, and emotional caution appears when something matters. Indifference is relaxed. Attachment is attentive. And when she begins caring about how you perceive her, that is a strong sign her feelings are no longer neutral. There's another sign few men recognize. She begins protecting your image. If someone criticizes you lightly, she softens it, defends you subtly, explains you in a more generous way.
Why? Because psychologically, when someone becomes part of our emotional identity, we defend them instinctively. You are no longer just a man she talks to. You are someone connected to her sense of judgment, and protecting you feels like protecting herself. Now pay attention to something very subtle: her jealousy. Not dramatic, not confrontational, but present. A slight shift in tone when you mention another woman, a small change in posture, a question that sounds casual but feels loaded. Jealousy, when calm and controlled, is not insecurity, it's investment. People do not guard what they don't value. And if she feels even a quiet discomfort imagining your attention elsewhere, that reveals emotional attachment forming beneath the surface. But here is where depth truly begins. She starts revealing her fears about relationships, not general statements, personal ones. I don't like feeling replaceable. I've been hurt before. I don't open up easily. These are not confessions made lightly. They are invitations wrapped in caution. She is showing you where she is fragile, and fragility shared selectively is trust. Trust is the bridge between attraction and love. Stoic philosophy reminds us that courage is not loud, it is quiet endurance. For a woman, emotional exposure requires courage. If she is showing you her insecurities, she is risking something, and risk signals value. Another transformation begins around this stage. She wants you to respect her, not just desire her. She talks about her ambitions, her principles, her boundaries. She wants you to see her depth. Because when a woman begins emotionally choosing a man, she does not want to be admired only physically. She wants to be understood intellectually, respected emotionally, valued personally. This is a deeper form of attraction. It moves beyond chemistry. It enters compatibility. And compatibility is what sustains attachment. Now something even more powerful begins happening. She becomes emotionally present in a way that feels different, not distracted by her phone, not scanning the room, not dividing her attention. When you speak, she listens fully. When you pause, she notices. Presence is rare in modern life, so when someone gives it consistently, it is meaningful. And here is a quiet truth. When a woman is falling for you, silence between you becomes comfortable. There's no rush to fill it, no anxiety, just shared space. Comfortable silence is a powerful indicator of emotional safety, and safety is the soil where attachment grows. But do not misunderstand. As her attachment deepens, so does her internal conflict. You may feel moments of distance, a slightly slower reply, a thoughtful withdrawal. This is not loss of feeling. This is self-protection adjusting to increased vulnerability. The more she feels, the more she calculates risk. Stoicism teaches us not to react impulsively to temporary shifts. Observe patterns. If warmth consistently returns, if care remains steady, if presence continues, then the foundation is still there. And here is perhaps the most telling sign in this stage. She begins imagining you in her future scenarios, not dramatically, subtly. We should try that place sometime. You would actually love this trip. If you were there. Future language is powerful because the mind does not naturally include someone in imagined futures without emotional relevance. You are no longer part of her present. You are appearing in her projection. And projection is the early architecture of commitment. At this point, her feelings are no longer curiosity. They are preference. They are selection. She is not just enjoying you, she is considering you. And consideration is heavier than attraction. But there is still one final transformation. Because when a woman stops merely feeling and starts internally deciding, her behavior becomes even more consistent, more intentional, more revealing. And that stage is where her heart is no longer debating, it is choosing. And when the heart begins choosing, everything changes.
There is a final shift. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, but it is unmistakable. It is the moment her emotions stop questioning and start settling. This is where she is no longer just feeling something. She is choosing it, choosing you. And when a woman reaches this stage, her behavior becomes steady, not intense, not chaotic, steady. Consistency is the loudest confession a guarded heart can make. She shows up, regularly, naturally. You no longer wonder where you stand every few days. Her energy does not swing wildly, because once a woman internally decides, uncertainty decreases. Attachment brings clarity. Now pay attention to this carefully. When she is truly falling, you become part of her emotional structure. Not entertainment, not distraction. Structure. She thinks about how her choices affect you. She considers your schedule. She respects your time. And most importantly, she becomes emotionally accountable. If she hurts you unintentionally, she notices. If something feels off between you, she feels it immediately, because your emotional state now impacts hers. That is not attraction. That is connection. Here's something very few men understand. When a woman is deeply invested, she relaxes her defenses. The sarcasm softens. The emotional testing slows down. The subtle games disappear. Why? Because she no longer needs to protect herself from you. She feels safer with you than without you. And safety changes behavior. She laughs more freely, speaks more honestly, expresses affection in small, unguarded ways, not dramatic declarations, simple sentences. I like talking to you. I feel calm around you. I missed you. These words seem small. They are not. They are controlled vulnerability. And vulnerability offered calmly is one of the strongest signals of emotional attachment. Now notice another transformation. She begins integrating you into her world, not just privately, publicly. She mentions you to friends, shares stories about you, includes you in plans without hesitation. In psychology, this is called social integration. It means you are no longer compartmentalized. You are being woven into her life. And weaving takes intention. Another powerful sign appears in conflict. If disagreement happens, she does not run. She does not disappear dramatically. She stays. She wants resolution. Indifference avoids discomfort. Love works through it. When she cares deeply, she would rather solve tension than escape it. And that is maturity. Now this is where Stoic philosophy becomes essential. Because once you realize she is falling, your response determines everything. Many men ruin this stage. They become overly eager, overly possessive, overly reactive. But Stoicism teaches restraint, emotional steadiness. If she feels herself leaning into you, and you remain grounded, present, unshaken, her attachment deepens. Because strength without aggression feels safe. Desire without desperation feels attractive. Calm confidence feels secure. Remember this. When a woman gives her heart gradually, she is watching how you hold it, not what you promise, how you behave. Do you remain composed when she is vulnerable? Do you respect her boundaries? Do you protect her trust? Because once she senses emotional safety, she stops hiding. And here comes the clearest sign of all. She becomes emotionally generous. She encourages you, supports your ambitions, defends your character, celebrates your victories as if they are yours. When someone begins investing in your growth, they are not casually interested. They are attached. And attachment reveals itself in care. But here's the quiet truth. When a woman fully chooses you, her love feels peaceful, not anxious, not dramatic. Peaceful. There is warmth, ease, flow. You no longer feel like you are persuading her to stay. She stays because she wants to. And the tension that once felt electric becomes grounding. This is the difference between attraction and emotional commitment. Attraction excites, commitment stabilizes, and stability is far more powerful. Now let me ask you something important. When you notice these signs, are you reacting from ego or from awareness? Because some men enjoy being desired, but are not prepared to be responsible.
Stoicism reminds us that power requires discipline. If she is trusting you with her emotions, that is power. If she is lowering her guard, that is responsibility. And the strongest men are not the ones who chase feelings. They are the ones who can hold them calmly. So if she is falling for you quietly, if her presence has grown steadier, if her care has become consistent, if her vulnerability has deepened, understand something simple. She is not confused. She is not playing games. She is not unsure. She is moving carefully toward something that matters. And love, when it is real, rarely announces itself loudly. It reveals itself in patterns, in presence, in peace. So the real question is not whether she is falling for you. The real question is this: when someone chooses you with quiet courage, are you strong enough to choose them back with equal calm? Because in the end, love is not about who feels first. It's about who remains steady when the feelings become real.